You're listening to Industry Talks on Design in Focus, a new multimedia channel serving CID. CID, Creative, Innovation and Design. Listen to representatives, practitioners and leaders on topics like industry development, skills, methods, movements, tools, concepts, projects, events, and much more. Hey Linda, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. How are you doing today?
Hi Candice, I'm really doing well. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah.
All right, so shall we jump right into it?
Yeah, sure. Let's just go ahead.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit more about what customer journey mapping is?
Yeah, of course. Well, for me, customer journey mapping is it's really making the data, your research data, manageable for the team and whatever people you're working with. And a customer journey map is a visualization from the process that a person is going through to reach a specific goal. So I'm always focused on which goal would I like to have my user to have. Mm-hmm. And then I'm creating a map within that goal and the process that they are going through. And that contains the touch point that they are having, channels that they are facing or using, emotions that they are having as well, or the things that they're thinking about. And I also try to map the pains and the gains and the opportunities that I'm seeing within this process.
Oh, that's quite a lot. Who usually uses customer journey maps?
Well, ideally everyone uses customer journey maps because for me it is the tool to get all the departments at the same board, at the same working together, break down the silos that are existing within a company. So for example, I'm most of the time working within the development team. So I'm doing the research for a development team so that we can link features that we are building towards a customer journey, what they are experiencing, and a touch point, for example. But it's also a nice way to get marketing to know how people are entering our website, for example, or for the business to see which problems the user is facing. So for me, I would like it that everyone within a company is using a customer journey map. And I think that's also a responsibility from the persons that are creating the customer journey map to spread the word and get every insights to every department.
So how would you do that? How would you get people to actively use journey maps and also know how to use journey maps in the correct way?
Yeah, fun question. I think that it really depends on who my client is. So sometimes I'm creating a customer journey map purely to research something. And that's the perfect situation when someone comes to me like, okay, I don't really know if I have to create something or if the solution is really targeting the problem that someone is having. So then it's more for the research. And then when I have done my research, then I'll give a presentation to the company or to the departments that ask me to do it. And then we really make it specific and really tangible within the actions that some people can have with the insights that I gave them. And the other side is that it is within the development team. So if I'm just working on a project basis and I'm researching what our user is doing within our product that we build, then I can help them to create or really use the customer journey map within the development process. So whenever we are building a new feature or we are fixing bugs, for example, then we're looking, okay, this is a touch point from our user. And this is the problem that they are facing. And this is a feature that we try to develop or the bug that we are fixing. So this is why it is valuable. So then it is really my responsibility to say to the developers or my product owner, like, okay, this is how we need to use it. Or when we have a brainstorm or a design critic session, for example, then I lay down every concept or prototype that I develop, but I start with the user story and the touch point from the customer journey so that they are seeing where we are adding value.
Mm-hmm. The customer journey kind of gives you a good way to map your processes as well to an extent, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it's also important because within development teams, sometimes or most of the times, it is our scope for only the phase within when they are doing stuff, but the user also has the orientation part phase and also the aftercare phase.
Yeah.
And even if that isn't within our scope, within our development team, then it is important for us to know how a user enters our product and how they are leaving our product, so that we can really provide the whole journey for them, or that I can say to marketing or to our service contact center, like this is the information that our user has, so you can help them this way.
Mm-hmm. You work in government at the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference in the way that different sectors use journey maps, and is there a specific value for each sector or your sector especially that you can talk about?
Yeah, I think so, because when I'm working on a commercial product, most of the times you can just pick your target audience, or the target audience already wants to buy something, or they are at least in a happy spirit. And for the government that I'm working for, especially the jurisdiction that I'm working for, people don't want to contact us. They are afraid of us. They don't want anything to do with us. And they really see us as the big bad guy. So for us, it is really important to really empathize with them. And even if we do this really well, people still wouldn't think of us as their favorite person. So that is a really different mindset within the customer journey map, like taking away these emotions from the user to get them to use your product, or even reading the information that you are providing for them. Most of the times it is something like that, because they don't want to open our letters because they think, oh, I will not understand this. It is hard to read, or I don't want to get involved with this. So even if I don't open the letter, I think it is not there, for example. So it is a really different mindset from the user to work with. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, especially UX designers, you're all about the client, the user. How do you advocate for the user in an environment like government, which is more finance and policy driven than people driven?
Yeah, sometimes I think that it is really hard, and it is a sort of new topic within the government, and it always depends on the team that I'm working for. Sometimes my product owner really doesn't want to work with me. They think I'm just a pain in the ass for being there. And that is really hard. I think I really need to convince the team that I'm doing valuable things for our user. And that is really hard. And I think that will remain really hard for the coming years. But I try to make myself valuable within really small things. So, for example, when I start a project, sometimes the product owner or someone else from the team don't want me to contact the user. And how can I advocate for the user when I cannot speak to them? And the small thing to do then for me is to go to the customer service support, because they are speaking to the user, and then I get their data, like, okay, what is the user asking you? How many times are they asking you this? And what would help you help them? And there are a lot of things, small wins, quick wins that I can create from this information. And then I can provide myself valuable to my product owner, and I can say to my product owner, okay, if we change these things, or we give the information beforehand instead of surprising them and making them angry by saying, okay, this is the bill that you did not expect. And the business then sees that the customer service calls become less. And then they are thinking, okay, so what we are doing over here affects our customer service over here. And that brings money in the end. So it is for me to focus on the user, but also on trying to make the business happy while making the user happy, and then let them see what the value is. And bottom line, trying to say, okay, this saves you money or this saves you time, so be happy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you sometimes have challenges bringing your business stakeholders along into believing the value that you offer?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think that is a challenge a lot of the time because, well, again, focused on the jurisdiction that I am working for, a lot of judges are like, really, okay, this isn't my responsibility. People just need to read and just get the information themselves, and I am not responsible for educating them. That is the main focus that people are having. While
Yeah.
on the other hand, we are also here for every citizen. Every citizen is our target audience, and we need to provide them with information that they need to be able to behave themselves within the society that we created and within the rules that we created for them. And sometimes they are facing challenges that they wish they never faced as well. So
Yeah.
you have the business over here that is saying like, this is my responsibility. And you have the citizen over here that's saying like, also like, I don't want to do this as well, but I have to because you created this for me, or you rejected this and this for me. So you put me in this situation. And I think that this is still a challenge that I'm still not really sure how to manage it. From time to time, I'm just lucky, and I wouldn't say really lucky because I prove myself valuable for the business by saying, okay, this is what the user needs, and it doesn't cost you a lot of time or money, but it affects them in so many ways. So please just do this. And also sometimes they're like, okay, let's just, you say this, let's try to do this, and then we'll see the outcome of it. But it's also that the business is just saying, we're not going to do this, and you need to figure out something else. And I think that is my responsibility to figure something else out then. So sometimes the business is saying no. That's just facts. That's just going to be the way it is. And you need to be creative to really help your user some other way. And I think that there are always ways to help your user. And to bring it back to the customer journey mapping, when I'm seeing the challenges that the user is having, there are multiple solutions. So of course, I'm going to strive for the best solution for my user. And maybe that is something that is more investive for the business, or they need to invest more money in it. But by mapping this journey, I can see where they benefit the most, and I can see the quick wins. And sometimes just something that I strive for we aren't able to do, and I just take my loss and I'll look for another solution.
Yeah.
And I think that the main focus for me will always be like, okay, you have so many holes in your process that you need to fix. Better fixing 3 holes than none. Exactly. And I think that's just the way it is and the way it will be.
Yeah, that's correct. You're a UX designer and a service designer. Do you use journey mapping in both?
Yeah, actually I do. And that's also because I'm just really a fan of visualizing my data in this way. And that's because most of the times I have so many data, and the team just doesn't really get a feeling of what I collected. And I think customer journey map is an easy tool, or at least one within one view, you can see what the user is going through and for who you are doing this. And it gives me the possibility, even if I only have a scope for one product, to focus on what is beforehand and afterhand. And it gives an understanding for the user. It shows the team the outcomes, and it creates a place for my research to exist.
Yeah.
So even though I'm only on a user experience project, even though I'm just creating prototypes, everything is still related back to the journey, and well, it helps to empower the team to
Yeah.
really feel what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to really give them the feeling of ownership.
Yeah. Are there any best practices when it comes to journey mapping?
Well, for me, the most things that I'm using is I'm doing it, first of all my research. So I'm observing people or interviewing people, sending out surveys and collecting all these data. I write down all the data within Miro of Mural, or just a Word document is also fine, but I really like it when I can drag and drop.
Yeah.
So when I have all these data, just really the hard data that I didn't do anything about, then I'm going to cluster it within categories that I'm seeing within the data, and then also keeping it within a chronological order. So I have both sides, categories and chronological orders. And then I try to map it within personas, and within these personas, I'm creating different customer journey maps. And for me, that's also valuable, because then I can really translate it back to for which user we are creating value, because the user is so different, especially when you have every citizen within the country.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that I'm doing the most. And I think that it is also for me a best practice to keep in mind that it is a working document, that you need to update it every now and then. And when you are developing a new feature, or you know that there is a new channel or new information within the process, just research that again and create or update your customer journey map. And for me, it's also important for that I mention to the team that this isn't the holy grail. So of course, we use this to base new features on, or new solutions or whatever, but still keep in mind that you have a user, and the user always has something else, and you have the business. So you have so many stakeholders. The customer journey map isn't the holy grail. So I don't like it when my developers are saying, but this isn't in the customer journey map, so we're not going to do this. And then I'm like, okay, I'm sorry that I didn't update it, but I know that this is important, or this is important for the business, so we need to do it. So it is a working document. It is something that you can base information or features on, but always just keep thinking for yourself.
Yeah. I want to go back to the working document, what you said in just a bit. But I have another question, which I also want to ask at the same time.
Yeah,
so
of course.
I've worked with customer or user personas, and generally I try to create between 6, maximum 12 personas. If you're working in government and you've got millions of people, and not only are they different genders and different demographics, but also intelligence levels, how do you design for that?
Well, I think that if you're going to search to the database of our personas within the government or within the jurisdiction, that you will come up with a lot of personas. But I try to make it really, I focus it on the project that I'm working on. So I'm not having a general persona for what you're saying, like this intelligence or this cognitive ability. But I'm really focusing it on the project that I'm working on. And also knowing what their knowledge is on that subject, for example. And I'm creating a new persona whenever I'm seeing a lot of different things and a lot of different categories or a lot of different pillars that I think to myself, okay, this isn't going to, I'm not able to summarize it within one persona. But I think that most of the times for a project, I am still able to keep it to a maximum of 4 or 5. And that is because I'm focusing really on the subject of that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that is really important to keep in mind. To only create a new persona whenever you have the research data for it. So really try to focus on your research data and not like, oh, but I think I have this persona, and then just fill it in with your research data, only create it when your research data tells you so.
All right. Well, pretty cool. And now back to that working document. That really got to me because it's not just a working document, it's a working document that the entire business can use all throughout its different teams and pillars, right?
Yeah.
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 For example,
true.
long before I became a UX designer, I used to check my users' behavior. So I would see how people would navigate through the website and then design accordingly. And that's UX, or, it was just web design back then. But in the employee experience type of setting, I also used it where I mapped the processes of 4 different teams, how how they go about their work, the journey that they take in the morning when they start and when they start creating, and how that's done. And based on that, I saw where the pain points were. And so I designed or developed or helped develop an interface where all the information was easy for them to find, and they had oversight into these challenges, which saved up to 3 hours per day per person. So even though that's not UX, maybe it falls within service design. I'm not sure, but I think that journey, that processes, it's crucial for any business. It can optimize on so many different levels, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100% with what you're saying. And I really don't know the main difference, or I do know the main difference, but I'm not really focused on if you would call it service design or UX design or whatever. I use those terms for the client, and they are happy when I'm saying, okay, I think this would be a service design project. And it's more for them because then they know what to expect from the outcome. But whenever I'm seeing with the problem that I'm facing, that some other methods would help me better or serve me better, then I'm just going to ask them, okay, is it okay if I research it in this way or create a deliverable this way? So I think customer journey mapping, you can say that it's a responsibility for the UX designer or service designer, whatever floats your boat, whenever you're adding value, I think that's fine. And what you're mentioning for the phases of the journey, that's really true because, well, what I was saying, within a project, you always have the scope of your project. And when it is a research project, of course, then you can do whatever because the only responsibility for you is to deliver a research document. But within working for a project, then you have your own portal or website or whatever. Well, the customer or your user doesn't see it that way because they are thinking like all of the touch point that they are having as their journey. And of course, they're over here, they are using their mobile phone, and over here they are going to the customer service, and over here they are looking at on the street at something. For them, that it is their journey. And while your portal is some touch point or application for them, it is within their whole journey, and you should face it that way. So when I'm seeing some insight or pain points from the user at the product that I am able to change, then I can do something about it. And if I'm facing challenges beforehand or insights or opportunities or afterwards, then it is my responsibility to give that information back to other departments. And maybe they are not doing anything with it. I cannot help that, but it is my responsibility to give them those insights. And sometimes it's always also my responsibility to follow up on that. And that's the main difference for me for service design and UX design, because UX design is within a project and within a specific application that I'm working for. And as a service designer, I'm able to speak to all the managers and really behave like Karen and saying like, this is something that you should do. This is the phase of the journey. And it's also a phase that can be iterative for the user. Exactly. So it is important to see those things and do something about it. And as a service designer, it is more in your hands to act on it than as a user experience designer. But I think that if you have a heart for the user, then you should always act on it and just behave like you are a service designer and go to managers and say like that they need to change it, and you should change it this way because this will be the value at the end. And that is again with the whole process, like facing the business challenges. But yeah, you can do something about it. You can help your user either way.
Yeah, what I really like is that the doing something doesn't only refer to making a change which you don't want to make, but designing a new business flow that generates revenue, right? So, for example, a lot of, now it's probably common knowledge, but back then we noticed that a lot of customers would start their journey on mobile and then complete their purchase on web. So by seeing that interaction, you facilitate sales, and I think that's quite an important business value or a business feature, so it's definitely ways to capitalize on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we didn't really spoke about omni-channel experiences, but that is exactly what customer journey mapping is trying to focus on. Like, okay, what are the channels that they are using, and how can you create a seamlessly omni-channel experience? And it really comes down to using the same words over again and referring to information from mobile to desktop. That it is the same it can be as easy as that.
Exactly. Hey, Linda, you mentioned omni-channel. Can you tell us a little bit more about the importance of omni-channel?
Yes, of course. So for me, omni-channel, it works for 2 projects in 2 different ways. For one project, I'm working with the citizen, like I told before. And for them, it is really important that we mention the same information within every channel and website, or when they have a customer call, or when they are calling to the court or going to the court, that they get the same information all over again, so that we really make this experience seamlessly. And when they are going on their mobile phone, that they see the same information as when they are logging into the website, or when they are receiving a letter, that we are using the same terms, that we are saying the same thing all over again. And for them, that is important because they are really insecure within this process and really afraid of doing anything wrong. And when we give them any more reasons to be insecure, then it will knock them off their feet, and that you don't really want to have that happen. So that is for the citizen, where it is important. And for that, by the way, it is also important that we use the same visual styles all over again. So within the letters, we have the same colors and the same headers as we have on the website and as we have within the court. And this is a challenge because every court in the Netherlands have their are independent, so they can choose to do something themselves. And of course, they need to follow the law, but within the law, they have a lot of options to make things different, and they really have a strong vision for how to approach people.
Yeah.
So that is a challenge to get them all on board to do the same thing in favor of the user. And beside that, I'm also working on an application for judges to use. And those judges are having a lot of different workspaces. So when they are at the office, they are using a desktop that is 27-inch, or sometimes they are using a curved screen from, I don't know, 35-inch or something. And they can also move their work to their iPad. So they are using multiple channels and devices, because within the application that we built for them, they also are able to refer to other cases, and those cases, those information of those cases is on another website, and is on another application that we are building for them. So it is important for us to really make it easy for them to switch between tasks and to really know where they are in the process, and also to really know where the focus of their cursor is, or where they are going to type. And beside that, they are able to open cases and documents and pages within those documents. And you need to know that when they have a file from a case, that the file can contain like 500 documents, and every document can contain 1,000 pages. And when they open a page, or when they are working on a page and they are making notes or asking colleagues or something, then they can be at page 700. And they can also open up to 4 viewports, so they can have 4 documents within all those pages. And it is important when they are switching from the desktop to the iPad, that the iPad really remembers where they were, so they don't have to search all over again and open the case all over again and be like, okay, where was I taking notes? And when they are switching to the new device, it is nice if they are like, okay, I'm working over here, here's my iPad, okay, I can continue working. And when we are providing those experience for them, then it feels seamlessly for them. And they are also able to drag with a pencil on their iPad, for example, and then continue typing on the desktop. So it is important to really synchronize these data and these movements that they made. And within a dossier, within a file, they can also collaborate with multiple colleagues. Another judge can work on the same file, but also other employees. And for everyone working at the same document or at the same file, it is important to know where people are, if they are doing the same thing, or if they are duplicating each other's works, or if they are adding value within their own process. So when we give them the right information at the right time, at the right device, then it feels for them like seamlessly designed, and it's like an omni-channel experience that is perfect for them. And it is so important for us to do this because, well, as I don't know if it's common knowledge, but judges aren't really the most digital experienced people. So if we make it easy for them to use our digital tool, then it is also easier for us to get them on board. And then they can spread the word like this application is easy to use, so you can use it even if you don't think that you're digital able to do anything. So it's really important to really manifest those feelings as well in the user.
Actually, I was having flashbacks from when I was studying law, and a challenge that I had frequently was that so you've got your law book, and then you've got your case, which is what you have to work on. Now, on that case, you have to work with the law book, and that's the laws. Those laws reference other cases, and those cases reference other cases. And a lot of those cases have got special terms, so you use a term book as well. So while you're working on a case, you have like 6 books open. So I can imagine that I don't know about judges, but maybe it's the same. Maybe they're working the same, that they have this easy access. You simplify it so beautifully by saying, oh yeah, just make sure everything looks and feels the same. But the capacity beneath that is that there's so much happening, and incredible technology,
Yes.
incredible design, incredible thoughtfulness. It's quite inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Yeah, and it's also the judges are a target audience on itself, because they really wants to have all the control that there is.
Yeah.
So if one functionality doesn't work right, like for example, searching in a file, then they are like, okay, the digital system is failing me. I need to go back to paper. So it is so important for us to really be reliable for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. The team that's working on this system is like top notch.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can completely imagine.
Yeah.
And aside from that, there was also like when Miro first came out and people were able to work together at the same time. I thought it was genius, and you didn't have to save. You could just close, because I've lost so much work over the years because of work not saving. So I think this omni-channel supports that natural human error to close things or not to save things, right? That's another feature.
Yes, absolutely. So they don't really need to save their work. They can still click on the save button, but it also says like, we saved your file like 2 minutes ago. And we are showing them the revisions of the documents or of the pages that they were working on. And it is so important to really have this technology reliable. Because I think a few weeks back, we had 3 users that lost their own work and that lost their process. And eventually we were able to bring it all back. So it was fine. But imagine, even if it are just 3 users and 3 users that are hesitant against digital products, and they are losing their job, and they are spreading the word like, don't use this application because it makes you lose your work, and you can start all over again. You put 6 hours in it, but hey, bye. So it is so important for us to have this technology really be reliable. So when this happened to 3 of our users, we were all like, okay, we hands on deck and fix this before they are spreading the word that we are not reliable. And we were able to bring it all back. So thank God, but it was it was really challenging.
Well, I mean,
there's a lot of impact.
I've contacted Google sometimes to see if they could help me get something back, and they couldn't,
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I think kudos to you. Good job. Very exciting stuff. And, it
absolutely.
It sounds like you're having a blast and doing something with a big scope. So
absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
So shall we just quickly summarize the main points of customer journey mapping?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I didn't say it before, but for me, the most important thing to keep in mind is better have one voice of the user than have none. And that is all bringing back to the product owner that was saying, like, you cannot speak to the user, just use the customer service. And for me, well, that isn't the ideal situation, but really keep in mind that every voice of the user is one. And whenever you're not allowed or able to reach to your user, search for other ways and change the process that you are working for within the data that you have. So it doesn't need to be chronological from, I have this research over here, then I validate, or then I summarize it, then I analyze it, and then I validate it. Merge it all together, make it an iterative process, and even if you have one user, then validate it later on and keep bringing in users. And even if you well, just have your users and make decisions based on your user, and it doesn't matter when the data comes in, if the data comes in.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And I think it is also really important to communicate your data with other departments. So if you have all these insights and you mapped it all in a customer journey map, make it your responsibility to spread the word, give these insights to all the departments that can make use of it, starting within your own development team, but also bring it back to marketing, bring it back to the business. Because if the business sees the value that you brought to this specific subject, then they can maybe think of another subject that they can also bring this type way of working within, so that the user experience or service design gets more involved within all the process in a company. And for the last part, really base everything that you are doing within your development team on the customer journey that you've made. So whenever your development team is building a new feature or fixing a bug, make sure that it is related back to a touch point within the customer journey, or related back to a pain or gain or opportunity, something that you saw within the customer journey. Doesn't it exist in your customer journey? That's also okay, of course, but make sure that it is related back to a customer wish. And if it isn't related back to your customer journey, and you can also not relate it back to a customer wish, then be really critical on your feature and see if it adds value somewhere. Because
it's got to serve some purpose.
And exactly. And sometimes it serves the purpose of the business, then it's also fine, but just know why you are making a feature. And if you cannot relate it back to a customer journey map, maybe that's your cue of updating your customer journey map. That's also a possibility.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Linda. Well, that was it for today, and I thank you for your time and your effort. It was a pleasure.
Yes, thanks for having me.
I hope we'll have you back again on the show sometime.
Yes, I think we will. I really enjoyed talking to you and being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Bye.
Bye-bye.